Hello there everybody, how's it going? It's Jessie from Jessie Marie Does Stuff here on FlossTube, and I am coming to you on this Monday, January 1st, 2024 with take number 11 billion. And a FlossTube video. Yeah, I had to look up the date. I am struggling with my words, so words are hard already. But nonetheless, it is January 1st, kickoff to 2024. Here we are. Before I get into everything, welcome everybody to both my returning viewers as well as perhaps somebody who's checking me out for the first time. Thank you all so much for spending part of your day with me. FlossTube is so big right now. I mean, it's low-key a little overwhelming between the whip parades and the 2023 recap videos and the finish parades and the 2024 plans videos. Is a lot. It's a whole lot. And so taking time to spend with me, wow, thank you. Seriously, thank you so much. So what do we have today? It's not a whip parade. I know I had promised a whip parade, and I do still intend, see, those are the words being hard. I do still intend on doing a full whip parade. It's just going to be delayed, not denied. Here's what happened. Yesterday, I sat down to film said whip parade, and I got about 20 projects in when I was like, you know what? I'm actually not in the mood for this. I mean, full stop. I was like, no, this is not it for today. This is not how I want to spend this day. I was just not in the mood to do it for whatever reason. Insert reason here. And that's not a very fun whip parade, right? So I thought I'm just going to I'm going to put that up on the shelf for a little bit, and I will do a full whip parade. I'm thinking sometime in February, just based on how busy January is. So look for that a little bit later in the year, and maybe things will calm down a little bit in FlossTube land by the time I'm able to do that. So today I'm in there stitching on my first project for the year, my first project for January, all just very exciting stuff, right? And I'm like, you know, maybe I'm in the mood to film a whip update. See, words. Maybe I'm in the mood to film a whip update because I haven't done one in a long time. I have worked on a fair number of pieces over the last week or so, one of which didn't even make it to Instagram. So maybe it's worthwhile for me to film a whip update. And then I can also show specific projects that I'm working on here for January, and I can talk to you about the books that I'm going to read in January. So that's the game plan for today. We're going to talk about the things I've worked on for the last week or so, and my specific plans for January. I did do my 2024 overall plans a couple weeks ago, but this is going to be more specific, and I'm going to be showing you the projects actually, rather than just the covers and whatnot like I did last time. So that's the plan. That's what we're here to do. A couple of other administrative things. I know I have some Q&A that I need to go over, and so we're going to save that for the next update video. Just trying to get back on this in the swing of things and get back on routine of filming regular updates, because October was my last regular update, or I think the very first day of November or something like that. It's been a long time since I've done a regular update, so we're going to start here and then we'll add in the other stuff starting next week. Okay, so before I get into the projects themselves though, we've got to address one thing, and that is that I blacked out all 3 of my WhipGo boards. Woohoo! Yay me! I created WhipGo in 2019. The public got to play along in 2020, and for the very first time in my stitching history, I accomplished WhipGo. Woohoo! And it took 3 boards to say that I accomplished it, but I did. I managed to reach all of my goals on all 3 of those WhipGo boards. And I'm just like huge pat myself on the back for that. The aim for 2023 was to be sure that I worked on all of my projects at least a little bit, make at least a little bit of progress on everything, because I hadn't been able to do that in a number of years. And so WhipGo was my way of accomplishing that. However, not on my WhipGo boards were my full coverage pieces. And so once I finished WhipGo, I still had 2 full coverage pieces left that I hadn't yet worked on. So I think it was December 23rd through the 25th-ish or something like that, I was working on one of those full coverage pieces. So let's start there. And that lives in this beautiful project bag. This is by Jasmine's Custom Bags. Jasmine is on Instagram, or not Jasmine, Genevieve is on Instagram, and this is easily one of my favorite bags. And so in here lives my Avarice. So preview here of what this will look like finished. This is charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. The artist is Marta Dalig. And this is a piece that when Danny, my now husband, when we were dating for one of our dating anniversaries, he found my HAED wish list, saw this chart on it, bought it, printed it out, kitted it up with all of the threads, and gave that to me for a dating anniversary. So sweet. And then I started it on our first wedding anniversary in 2017. So this has been a WIP for a very long time. And I hadn't yet worked on it this year, so I wanted to be sure to put at least some stitches into it. And this is 25 count easy grid Lugana from Zweigart. I'm stitching 1/1 full cross with the called for DMC. I subbed 310 out, in came anchor black, as is my way. So here is where I am up to currently, and I'm just gonna fold this to make this a little bit more manageable. I was working on page 2 here. Page 2 was a blank slate, so I got page 2 started, and I did 1,000 stitches over the course of a few days. This section normally doesn't take me that long, but it was a crazy season. I mean, those days leading up to Christmas, wow, busy. So I was able to get 1,000 stitches in amongst those 3 or 4 days. I can't even remember now. And this project saw some love. I am so excited for the next time that I work on this, because I'm going to start working on the ring. I can't directionally figure this out. So the ring that goes around her, and that's confetti. And I'm one of those who really enjoys confetti. I struggle with the 2 or 3 color background. Yeah, it stitches up faster, but it's awful boring. I love confetti. And so I might have continued on with this, but because of the busy season, I decided to save the confetti, the more mental requiring section, for a different time. And so that's what I did. So my 1,000 stitches got this piece some progress this year, and so I'll take it. So this piece is on my WhipGo board for 2024 twice, because the first time I will get half the page done, and the second time I will finish the page. So that is Avarice by Heaven and Earth Designs. So with my next project, we have to talk about something sad. This is my 3rd time filming this, so if I'm looking a little weepy, that's why. Earlier this year, my Aunt Colleen was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. So my mom is the youngest of 5, and so Aunt Colleen was her older sister, not her oldest sister, but her second oldest sister. Aunt Colleen was diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. And what an aggressive difficult disease to navigate, not only for the person with the condition, but with those around them. Man, what a tough thing to navigate. And it's so aggressive. It is so aggressive. Our trip to Michigan in March was to either go visit her while she still had more lucid days, or to just be there for family as we navigated the early phases of the diagnosis and what that meant for us. So this last trip to Michigan, at the tail end of our trip, Aunt Colleen was transferred to hospice. And I think that that's when it hit me. Dementia is one of those, you're on a path and there is no exit ramp and there is no U-turn and you're just on the path. Sometimes it's faster and sometimes it's slower, but there's no turning around and there's no alternate route. There's no getting better. It's just you're on the path. And I don't think that realization hit me until she went to hospice. And on December 25th, on the afternoon of Christmas, so we had our Christmas with Baby Does stuff. We got the news that she had passed in the morning, and I don't know the details. They aren't relevant for this conversation anyway. But she passed away on December 25th. She hasn't been my Aunt Colleen for a long time, and she no longer is stuck in a body that won't do anything for her anymore. But it still hurts a lot. My Aunt Colleen was a prominent feature in my childhood. I know that my brother and I, we weren't with her every other weekend, but it sure felt like it sometimes. Like we were at her house a lot. My Aunt Colleen and my Aunt Hallie specifically were prominent features in my childhood. My Aunt Colleen is where I picked up, and she is the one who fostered my love of reading. My mom was a reader too. She's a reader too, but my Aunt Colleen, like I would say, like 75% of her personality was reading. And so a lot of my core memories involve my Aunt Colleen and going to Borders and going to the movies to see film adaptations of the books that we had read. In 8th grade, I'll never forget it. In 8th grade English, we were tasked with, you can read whatever you want, but you need to be ready to do a book report on it. And so I asked my Aunt Colleen what I should do. And because I was always an overambitious child, she said, well, she suggested The Fellowship of the Ring. And I was not prepared for that. So, I'm a whole mess. So anyway, so she passed on December 25th. And I know I'm not alone in this, but when we're processing big stuff, particularly as crafters, as stitchers specifically, a lot of times I process my feelings through stitching. And so I thought I was going to be starting the Let's Talk Winter by Hands On Design. We're going to circle back to the stitching now. I thought I was going to be starting that on Christmas Day. And instead, I pivoted and I found this design. Let me get cleaned up and I'll be right back. So I went to Etsy to look for a a design with an owl and a book. I stumbled upon Cross Stitch Pictorial. Cross Stitch Pictorial is, the designer behind them is Ukrainian, and I found they have a series of several owls with books, and so I asked my brother which one he liked the best, and so he picked this one. This one is officially called Fall Owl 5. Preview here of what this will look like finished. And so I have that living in this project bag. This is by Black Cat X Stitchery, similar to the one that I have that's also in pink, just some girl scientists. And so I got started on this on the evening of Christmas, once everything had settled down, to start processing all of the things. So this is on 32 count Belfast linen from Zweigart. It is a printed fabric. I know that I picked this up at Stitch New Jersey this year. The label says cottage cream, but it's vintage cream. It's the same thing as Vintage Country Mocha, in that it's got the same kind of color variations, but it's just a cream colored as opposed to a brown. So as with the Ukrainian and Eastern European style designs, there are a million colors and some blends, and lots of backstitch in this one. But I got it started and started processing some of my grief and some of my feelings with losing my Aunt Colleen. And owls I will forever associate with her, and books, of course. And this owl has a mug. Aunt Colleen was a big tea drinker. She wasn't a coffee drinker, but she was a tea drinker. So it's an owl with her mug of tea and her book and her glasses that make her eyes look too big, and tissues stuffed in her ears when she goes to the movies, and all of the things. So that is my Fall Owl 5. I thought I might stitch this to the finish, but ultimately I decided to, I'm going to savor this one. Plus it's pretty big. I mean, it's, this is 1,000 stitches, and I think I'm maybe 15% in. So there is that. And so I will work on that. When I posted about it on Instagram, I was a little bit vague on things, but that was why I started that. And so there is that. I reach a point on Fall Owl where I'm pseudo comfortable putting it down, and also at the realization that there's only a few days left of the year and I still had another full coverage piece to get to be sure that I work on absolutely everything this year. So that was the next project that I pulled out, and that lives in this project bag here. This was so beautifully made for and gifted to me by Dawn Marie of DM's Crafty Vortex. This bag is so fantastic. She has a tutorial on her channel for how to make these bags, and if I ever get my act together, I'm gonna have to make some more of these because they have double big pockets and they are fantastic. So in rare form, this is a piece that I have on the Q-Snap. And so here is where I'm up to. Page 1 is finished here, but it's mostly under the clamp, so I'm not going to be showing that. I have it in the right spot and everything. All of this excessive fabric is corralled how I need it to, so we're just going to leave it in the Q-Snap. So like Avarice, I got started on page 2, and like Avarice, I did about 1,000 stitches. So I was able to get a little bit of work into Magic Study here. Similarly, 25 count Easy Grid Lugana, 1/1 full cross with the called for DMC, no DMC 310, instead Anchor Black, and at some point during my ramblings, you will have seen a preview of what this will look like finished. This is it was a limited edition. It is now out of print. There is another version. It's more rainbow colors. You can find that on the Heaven and Earth Designs website. But this one is a limited edition. So no longer available unless you can find somebody who bought a hard copy and is willing to part with it. And the artist is Rose Cat Khan for this one, if you're curious about checking out perhaps some of her other works. So this is a piece that is also on my Webco board for 2024. It's on there twice, so I can get half the page done each time to get a second page finally. On this gargantuan piece, this one's really big. It's like nearly, I think it's 416,000-ish stitches. It's pretty big. So I will chip away at it. It's funny, when I'm stitching it, I'm always like second guessing the colors, but then I get a chunk finished and I'm like, actually I think I like that. The details aren't as strong, but I'm also not in like a super important section yet. So anyway, so that is Magic Study. So I finished up my 1,000 stitches on Magic Study, and that was so much fun. The reason that was so much fun is that meant I had worked on absolutely everything in the calendar year 2023. And I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to do that. I am just so pleased that I was able to accomplish that in 2023. Many projects didn't see as much progress as I would have liked, but nonetheless, I got some progress into all of them. So at this point, I had a day and a half left. I had the rest of December 29th and December 30th, and then I had plans for the 31st. So I had a day and a half where I could go full sway-wee. And do you know that I am not meant for full sway-wee? I am really not meant for full sway-wee. Sway-wee is stitch what you want when you want. It is a movement where you don't pay attention to goals or rules or rotations or anything like that. And more power to those of you who can stitch like that, because apparently I'm not one of them. I needed somebody to tell me what to do, and so I asked Sammy to randomly choose a project for me to work on. And so she picked a project that lives in this project bag. This is by Hillside Rookery, Olivia B. And in here lives one of my favorite pieces that doesn't currently have a plan for 2024, so I was really pleased to get to work on it. This is Spring Quaker by Leela's Studio, and I was just I was excited to spend some time on this. With the Autumn Quaker releasing earlier in December, and winter, who knows, that might be coming soon. Anyway, I was just very excited to spend some time on this. This I have a version in Pattern Keeper, and so the stitching of it goes fairly quickly. I stitched with using one color for the 2 days that I worked on it. But I got about 700 stitches in those 2 days because one color, Pattern Keeper, it goes mighty fast. So let me show you the whole thing. But my efforts were on page 1 here. So I finished out this motif that I hadn't quite finished previously. Then I stitched a couple of little ones, the F and the I. And then I started working on this big motif here, the first of the full Quaker motifs in this design, because all of these other ones obviously are halfies. So yeah, so that's the progress that I made. I made a decision to, my initials are JMS, and they are alphabetical, and they are all on the same side of this design. So I'm going to stitch those in the same pink as these flowers, which is just a DMC. So I'm going to stitch my initials in that color. Speaking of the threads, this calls for a mix of DMC and Classic Colorworks. I'm using the called for DMC but I have done an almost total substitution for the Classic Colorworks because I have a humongous Gast stash and Color and Cotton, and so I subbed in equivalencies. The only exception to that is the blue that you see. That's Classic Colorworks Shamrock, and I didn't have a great substitution for that, so I picked up the Shamrock to do this. But otherwise, it's my own stuff. It's my own color conversion thus far. So that is Spring Quaker by Lila's Studio. Oh, and the fabric is 40 count Newcastle linen in Little Bunny by Axju Designs. So now we get to December 31st. So excited for New Year's Eve and my New Year's Eve plans. I thought about doing New Year's Eve 12 by 12. I thought about filming a whip parade. I had ideas, but nothing was really set in stone except for this one thing. So I mentioned it in my 2024 plans videos, plans video, singular, that the date yesterday was 123 123 12/31/23, and even if you write your dates day first, it's still a fun number pattern. Then it would be 31/12/23. So 311223. So it's still a fun number pattern yesterday. And so to celebrate, I had a new start for the 123 123 sal, and it requires all of this. It's a lot of floss because what I started was a Paula Vaughan quilt. So that lives in this project bag that I'm finally putting to use again. This is by Ragtag Quilt Art on Etsy, and in here is my January quilt by Paula Vaughan from the Quilts for All Seasons book. Love this one. I don't know why I love this series, but I do love this series. I love stitching them. They are complicated enough, and also they flow easily enough that I just enjoy it. The charts are in color, and they use the same symbol but with different color combinations, so like black dots on a white background and purple dots on a pink background, etc. They do an awful lot of that, so it adds to the complexity of it, but it's also just, I don't know, this is soothing stitching for me. So I was really excited to finally get another quilt started. I finished 2 in 2022, and I hadn't started my next one since. So finally got January quilt started yesterday, and here is the progress that I made. Let me pull my parked threads down. So yeah, so that's where I got to. Starting in that top left corner with the curtain and the wallpaper background half stitch going on over there. So yeah, really excited to have this started. I did about 700 stitches yesterday, and I love it. I love it. I have no idea when I'm going to get to work on this again. But hopefully soon. Hopefully soon. I would really like to. So that's where I got to with my new start yesterday. This is on a 32 count Belfast linen in cream from Zweigart, and I'm stitching using all of the called for DMC, for which there is a lot. So there is that. As far as size goes, this one seems to be even smaller than November. I haven't compared the stitch counts, but I'm pretty sure this one stacks up smaller than November. Although that quilt is pretty large in this one, so we'll see. We'll have to wait and see. And that is how I finished out 2023. So 2023 done. Let's do some real fast year 2023 stats. Just some real quick numbers for you. we started the year with 77 works in progress. And after, let me think, 7 total finishes, 4 UFOs, and 26 new starts. Some of those finishes came from the new starts, like my monthly Quakers. I finished 3 of those. So once you do all that math, I finished the year with 92 works in progress. 92. So pretty exciting. Not near what my plan was. My plan was to have no more than 13 new starts, and I doubled that. But nonetheless, here's the cool thing. I did 204,133 stitches. That's what I have recorded. How accurate that is, plus or minus a handful or so. I am somebody who enjoys counting stitches. I am somebody who enjoys tracking those things. And with my records, I did more stitches this year than 2018, 2020, 2021, and 2022. 2019 was a record year where I almost crested 230,000. And I will probably never be able to recreate that. But I nonetheless stitched more this year than any of those other years that I mentioned. Prior to that, I don't have any records, so there's that. I had 15 total no stitching days this year, which I think is pretty good. Just a couple of weeks, and I had 6 full coverage page finishes. So that's kind of what helped inform what my plan was for 2024 here. And this year it is about getting some full coverage page finishes, and I'm very, very excited about that. That is it for the 2023 statistics. A video where I show you all of the new starts that I had and all of the finishes that I had is forthcoming sometime, not today. So we get to midnight, and I know a bunch of folks have a new year, new start. My new year, new start is going to take place tomorrow. So what to work on today? Well, one of the pieces that I am trying to finish this year happens to have a birthday today. So that was the first project I chose to work on. Since I'm only working on it for a day, I didn't really want to dive into the full coverage just yet, which I think is a little bit ironic, because I have said over and over again that the focus is on full coverage, and then I don't start the year that way. But anyway, so this is January by the Cricut Collection. I started this piece on January 1st, 2017. So happy 7th birthday. Silliness. But nonetheless, here we are, 7th birthday for this piece. But I am going to get this finished this year. Let me show you the progress that I've made so far today. I did start stitching right after midnight, and then a little bit earlier today. So I have been working in the moon clock here underneath the second A, and I've started working on the letter R in that pretty aqua green color. So I've done about 250 stitches so far today, getting started with 2024 stitching. So this is a piece that I have the Daily 30 Cross Stitchers Journal group that I have talked about over the years, their annual event. I picked this because this is my, okay, let me see if I can explain this in a way that is coherent and understandable. In creating my plans for 2024, I went through my stitchy calendar and pulled one project with a birthday in each month to be my focus on a finish. And before I decided to put them on a Whipco board, I thought I might try to have one focus on a finish each month in the specific month where it has its birthday. So this piece is my January birthday whip that I think I could finish this year. So I put that in with my Daily 30 year-long event. And so that's why I'm working on this now. You probably didn't need all of that, so you're welcome. You get extra information per usual. So I'm working on this today, and I'm hoping to get a good chunk of that R done. We will see how it goes. This is on a 28 count ice blue linen from Zweigart. It's a cashel linen. I have it in the Q-snap because I have it set up too high on the fabric and I can't get it tensioned right in my Millennium frame. So this is going to be a Q-snap project. 2 Q-snap projects from me in the same video. Who am I? It's very unusual for me to have Q-snap stitching. So that's what I'm working on today, and then it will come back a little later in the month and we will discuss that. Okay, since that is what I am currently working on, let's dive into my plans for the month of January. So on the 25th, I posted the first WIPGO calls for WIPGO 2024. So very exciting to see what our first numbers are. And they were 9 and 22, in case you haven't seen that. 9 and 22 are the calls for January. So I am invoking my board, my rules. Both of my boards I changed after we got the numbers. Here's what it is. With my finish board, so technically my secondary board, 9 and 22 were, 22 was Farmhouse Christmas. 2 reasons I swapped that for January. January because, as I mentioned, it's in my daily 30 thing, and so I'm already planning on working on it as soon as possible for that. Also, I don't know about y'all, but I would say the first 6 to 8 weeks after Christmas, I have zero interest in stitching Christmas. Like, it is like full stop, December 26th, I don't want to stitch Christmas at all anymore. And Farmhouse Christmas was my number 22, and so that was a really easy swap. I just switched up Farmhouse Christmas in January so that I can sort of 2 birds, 1 stone, both WIPGO, I can accomplish some WIPGO stuff and also work on this daily 30 challenge, which is why I think that that's one that I can actually get finished, because I can't swap it out until I finish, barring exceptions. But anyway, irrelevant information at this point. So January is my 22, and number 9 is a piece that lives in this project bag that I don't think I've shown. This was gifted to me by the lovely Sammy J Stitches while we were at the Stitching in the Springs retreat, and this is by Stitch and Button. Super fantastic project bag. And in here lives another piece that I might be able to finish this month. I think that the possibility is there. So this is the horror movie Alphabet by Clouds Factory. Preview here of what this will look like finished. And I have, I think, 6.5 characters left to do. 6.5 characters and their names and some backstitch and whatnot. 6.5 characters left to do. So this is a piece that I worked on, I think, in December for its second WIPGO call. And so that's when I worked on Reagan and Sumira, and I got started on Jack Torrance. And I love this piece. I know that this piece is polarizing. You either love it or you hate it. I love it. It's just so fun and just really cool. This is on 32 count Belfast linen in Lycan's Moon by Under the Sea Fabrics. This is affectionately referred to as dried blood. Brittany of Ingleside Imaginarium is the one who coined that term. And so it will forever be dried blood. It's perfect for this piece. And this is something that I started in Mania of 2016. High time I get this one done, and I really think it's possible. Each of the characters, when I'm focused, I can get about 1.5 done in a day, depending on the complexity. So I really think that this is possible this month, and that would be just so much fun to get that done. So that is my horror movie Alphabet, and I think I've told you all the things now. Okay, so let's get into full coverage whipco, which is actually my focus for the year, which is just funny because it's finally coming up. So, like I said, we got numbers 9 and 22. And I made changes to this whipco board as well. Number 9 for me on my original board was my Dragon New Start, which I have planned for February. And so in my head, I was like, okay, if I save my Dragon New Start for February, then I potentially have my Dragon New Start, 2 Weather Whipco calls, and I bet 13 gets called then too, because that's just the way Murphy's Law and whatnot. If it can't happen, it probably will. You know, it was too much to cram into a month that is, while extra long this year, still a little short. So I made a swap, and Danny helped me make the swap. He randomly picked another of my full coverage pieces. So there's that change that I made. My number 22 is by far my most difficult on this board, and I had it listed as straight up page finish. It's about 4,400 stitches, and the width of it makes it a little bit difficult to work on. It was not a great choice to start off with here in January. And so what I decided to do is break that one up into 2. And so my 13 is no longer a free space. It is that piece broken up into 2. So I only have about 2,200 stitches to do on that one, 2,700 to do on my new number 9. I think that that's honestly a better way of easing into the year and getting accustomed to whatever this rotation is going to look like this year. So let me show you what those pieces are. So this is my new number 9, and it is Quick Stitch Day and Night, artwork by Nadia Strelkina, charted by Heaven and Earth Designs. And this is a piece that is on my board twice, so 2,700 stitches will get me half of what I have left on this one. And I am so excited to work on this one. Very, very excited. Again, 25 count easy grid Lugano, 1/1 full cross. Very much looking forward to working on this one. My 22, that was 4,400 stitches and is now only 2,200. And when I made that decision to swap that, relief. So that is my Quick Stitch Once Upon a Fairy Tale 2 by Amy Stewart, also lovingly referred to as Quick Stitch Once Upon an Understatement, because it's a quick stitch, but it's humongous. Before Haunted House, this was my biggest whip. So yeah, I am looking forward to making some good progress on this, but relieved that I don't have the full amount to accomplish for whipco here in January. Because I have some other things that I'd like to do. And yes, full coverage is the priority this year, but I still have some other things I'd like to do. So making it work. Making it work as easily as I can. So that is the plan for that one. And for both of those, you will have seen the preview. My other large goal for this year, arguably my largest goal for this year, is personal sunshine. So that lives in this project bag. This is a brass button bag. And personal sunshine is also a Heaven and Earth design. This is my piece that I have broken up into 12 to see the finish by the end of the year. I have to do 5,500 stitches every month to see that goal accomplished. And so here's where we are starting from. My 5,500 stitches this month will finish that bottom page that I'm working on where my diagonals have started, and it will get me a good portion into page 4 up here because I stitch my pages in diagonals. This is artwork by Jeremiah Kettner. Jeremiah Kettner is no longer with Heaven and Earth Design, so this is an out-of-print chart. 25 count antique white Lugana, 1/1 full cross, called for DMC plus some Anchor Black substitution. And so yeah, so that's where I am starting with this one. Oh, she's gorgeous. I'm so excited to work on this again. Dive into those purples. Get going on this plan to get this finished this year. I have worked it out that I think that with this piece in particular, I can manage about 600 stitches a day. And so that's going to give me 10 days working on this, which I think is great to spend 10 days a month on this one. I really like that. So that is the plan there. Lastly, I have my small goal focus pieces. So these are the pieces where I have set small stitch count goals to work on them just a little bit every month, to break up the full coverage and also to work on some other pieces, favorites, what have you. So the first lives in this joyful project bag. This one just makes me happy. This is a stitch and button bag. And in here lives my lovely summer sampler by the Cooler Design Studio. This piece I'm aiming for 300 stitches a month, so a small goal, but regular progress on this piece that is easily one of my favorites. Yeah, I'm here for that. This is 32 count cream Belfast linen from Zweigart. And this is where I'm starting from, and I'm so excited to get regular progress on this. 300 stitches a month will not see it finished, but it will, like I said, it'll get some regular love. And I mean, that's 3,600 stitches by the end of the year, so it's not nothing. Twice over what I got last year, so I'm here for it. Okay, my next small goal focus piece lives in this project bag. This is also by Black Cat X Stitchery, and this is my monthly Quakers. So I am currently working on April. My small monthly goal for this one is a large motif and probably some small motifs to go along with it. Oh, I have this one on an urge still. This was my travel stitch. Let me take the chart off. So here is where I'm starting with this one. So my large motif is going to be this big green one here, which is this one. And I'll probably do the small motifs underneath it as well and finish it up next month. So that'll be exciting. I'm stitching this 1/1 on 28 count cashel linen, antique white cashel linen, using the DMC substitutions that Wendy provides. And I think they are turning out gorgeous, and I'm going to have them finished as little pillows. So I have January, February, and March finished up here, and April is coming down to the wire. I started this in June, so it's high time I finish this itty bitty little piece. I have two more, one that I won't be showing, and one that I don't have with me currently. It is Touching the Autumn Sky by Mirabilia. Still undetermined whether that's going to be a continuation once I finish frogging or a restart. For that one, my small goal is 500 stitches each month, at least 500 stitches each month. But I'll show that when I make the determination of which is it. Is it a frog and get going again, or a restart? My last is in this beautiful project bag. This is by Stitch and Button, and this is my long dog for the year 2024. This is Ragnarok by Long Dog Samplers, and here is my starting point. Woo! That fabric is so red. It really is that rich red. That's pretty fantastic. It is a very cloudy, very beautifully gray day here in Virginia today, so we're getting some interesting colors. I am stitching this using Anchor Black. My fabric here is 40 count Newcastle linen in Sweeney Red. I think it's Dames of the Needle is the dyer of this beautiful rich red color. I thought it was pretty fantastic for Ragnarok. So I am very excited to work on this. My goal for this one is 500 stitches a month at least. I set all of these goals as something that I can get done in about a day to a day and a half, with the knowledge that full coverage is my focus for the year. Okay, a couple other plans that I have coming up here. Another is my new start for tomorrow. Tomorrow, January 2nd, is technically my New Year New Start. It's just a little bit later for reasons. And that is Santa's House by Cottage Garden Samplings, the first in the Fabulous House series. You remember how I said I'm not really in the mood to stitch Christmas? Yeah, so this is only going to get tomorrow. I really want to get this series going. I'm really excited about this whole collection. But yeah, I'm not going to be able to work on it a whole lot, only because I'm not in the mood for Christmas, and this is Christmas enough. So that is what I am starting. I have no intentions of stitching them all together. They are not all going to go on the same fabric. They are going to all be on 40 count linen though. And so this one is going on the Gray Stuff by Grace Notes Fabrics. And it's this beautiful kind of gray purple. And it's fantastic. It's just such a beautiful linen. So that is what I'm going to be putting Santa's House on. And I think that's going to work out pretty nicely. I have my Ladybug and Plymouth Rock on the way, but I'm going to start with the DMC threads to get it going. But it's just going to be a tomorrow stitch, and then I will come back to it later on in the year. So that is my New Year New Start. Another thing that I may start this month, and I don't know when, but a really gorgeous chart was released within the last couple of days, and it is called Grief Knows No Bounds. I'm looking at my phone at Instagram here. I'll insert a preview here of what this will look like finished. This is a collaborative effort between a bunch of powerhouses in the stitching community. So we have Miriam of Marumi Designs, we have Jasmine's Made with Love, Crafty Yams, Aya Rosen, and Michelle Bendy. They all collaborated on this gorgeous design, and so I'm gonna be starting that probably this month, because it's lovely and pertinent and important, and craftivism is the best. So that is also something that is high up on the list. I am also in Dee's 20 Stitches. I am in their Stitch for Pride, and so I haven't seen the chart for this month yet, but that may be getting started this month as well. We'll kind of have to wait and see. I was certainly in for the learning and the sampler. I'm excited to see it, but Mystery Sal's and we don't have a great relationship, so we'll kind of have to wait and see about that. So that is it for the stitching plans for January 2024. So let's talk about the more bookish side of things. In 2023, I read like 16 or 17 books. I can't remember exactly now. I'm really hoping to up that here in 2024 and sort of return to a more reading-filled life that I certainly haven't been able to keep up with over the last few years. So the first thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and I'm not going to dive too far into this, but I have a reading tracker. This is designed by Novelly Yours, and I have followed Novelly Yours for some time. Back in our book blogging days, I have an acquaintance with her, and she released the 2024 reading tracker, and this thing is fantastic. I am so geeked about this. The beginning has some typical stuff, some series trackers, a reading log, some challenges, etc. But here's what I'm excited about. I love reading logs, but I get bogged down by the ones that are so focused on like a review. synopses and things like that. And I don't need that. I don't need space to be writing down my thoughts in my review and whatnot. But I do like a stat tracker like this. And so each of these is for a different book. And so it's, so if this is your 50th book of the month and your 75th book of the year, the day you started it, finished, title, author, your rating, genre, source, format, owned or borrowed, and the age. So if you're reading middle grade or adult or young adult or new adult or what have you. That's it for like the book tracking, and I love that. And there's also let me find it here. There's a monthly recap where you can fill in this information. This is totally more up my alley as far as a book tracker is concerned. I am just so thrilled about it. I am so stoked to start using this. I wanted to share this with you all just in case you were like me and maybe looking for a journal to keep track of books read and whatnot. I would very much suggest this one. I like it a lot. Okay, so let's get into my TBR for January. I have 4 books on my TBR and a 5th, but we'll kind of wait and see. So a few weeks ago, I asked on Instagram for some book recommendations, and I was going to do the 12 books challenge, in which I take the recommendations from 12 of you and try to read one a month. And so I got a whole lot of suggestions, and what I ended up doing is randomizing to pull 12 from that list rather than doing it in timeline order of when the suggestion was submitted, etc., etc. So I chose 12 randomly. And then I was like, gosh, we are halfway to a WIPGO board here. And since I can't help myself, I decided to make it into a WIPGO board. So I took those 12 from the 12 books rating challenge, and then I randomly selected 12 books already on my shelves that I haven't read yet. I have, I think, 213 books on my shelves that I haven't read yet. Yes, 213. I am a collector. And so I chose randomly 12 from my shelves, and it didn't matter where it landed in the series. If it was the last book in a 10-book series, then perhaps I've got to read all 9. Fortunately, that didn't happen except for once. I have to read one book before I can read the one that was right. Anyway, all of this to say, I created a bookish WIPGO board. And so my numbers 9 and 22 are Anne Bishop's Written in Red. Annette, I'm finally going to get to this for real. I know I've tried to read it a couple of years ago, but I am finally going to dive into this. This is paranormal fantasy, a bunch of different paranormal creatures, shapeshifters, and whatnot. And so I'm very excited to dive into this. And then a total departure from that, my other from my bookish WIPGO is Small Great Things by Jodi Picoult. So heavy-hitting contemporary. This one tackles racism and white supremacy and stuff like that. So it's going to be heavy-hitting, and I'm going to cry, and I'm going to have lots of feelings. This one, I believe, was recommended by Letitia, the Crafty Curator, a number of years ago, and so I'm going to dive into this and see what it's all about. Jodi Picoult and I have we have a love-hate relationship, so we'll see how that goes. Okay. Also on my TBR for January is this behemoth, House of Sky and Breath. This is book 2 in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. Book 3 comes out on January 30th, and I had a grand plan of reading 10 pages from this series to get them both read in time for House of Flame and Shadow by the end of the month. That didn't happen. I got House of Earth and Blood read in due time. I haven't started this one yet. So I'm going to try to read this month. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to break up these 816 pages or whatever it is over the next 30 days. try to get it read in time for House of Flame and Shadow. So that is my plan with this one. Okay, so part of my plan for books this year is 3 books a month to start, which will get me to 36 by the end of the year, which would be cool. So my 2 from my Whipco board, my bookish Whipco board, and then 1 of a new release from the month previous. December is a really bad month for publishing. A lot of publishers wait until January, or they publish a lot sooner in the year in anticipation of the Christmas shopping. So they tend to time it out so that not a whole lot gets published in December. And so I don't have a book that I really want to read that was just published in December. So I decided to pick something else off of my shelves, and it is my grief talking again. It is my sadness. It is me processing a little bit. So this is Behind the Beautiful Forevers by Catherine Boo. This is the last book that Aunt Colleen recommended to me. She recommended this to me at Christmas last year, and so this was the last book that she recommended. And so I'm gonna try to read this. As far as I can tell, this is gonna be heavy hitting on its own without the nostalgic impact of it, and the sadness that I'm carrying with it. But nonetheless, I'm gonna read Behind the Beautiful Forevers this month. So that is my plan there. There is likely to be an audiobook reread because I'm trying to get back into audiobooks. But with FlossTube being so big, we'll kind of see how that goes. And I'll talk about that when I get there. Hey everybody, Jessie here, in editing a few hours later. Apparently my video cut off. Fortunately, I was right there at the end, so really all I have to say is happy stitching, everybody. As always, be kind. I will see you in the next one, perhaps next week, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. But nonetheless, I will see you then. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.